So you guys know that gaming circle jerk subreddit place where a lot of modern audience types like to pretend like they're the smartest people around while they get all mad at people that they deem as chuds and whatever else, that sort of brain rot slop posting that goes on there. Well, they have a sister subreddit where they have more in-depth discussions. And I found a very funny post on that subreddit, one that I think you'll enjoy too. For the laughs, of course, so let's take a look. So that takes us to this post titled, "The Anti-Woke Gaming Crowd Isn't a Movement. It's a monetized outrage machine that's always been a loud minority." What does monetized outrage machine even actually mean? It seems like bro threw like 3 buzzwords together and called it a day. Like, okay, bro, sure, right. Actually reminds me of an article, I think it was on Aftermath, where they were complaining about Asmongold and commentary channels, and they were saying that we're like radicalization engines or something like that. I don't know how these people constantly one-up each other with like the lamest slogans they could come up with or whatever, but hey, that's the modern audience types for you. And speaking of Asmongold, spoiler alert, because the modern audience in the comments of this post are actually getting mad at Asmongold and also myself, saying some really weird stuff. So just a heads up, we'll get to that part around like the 8-minute mark, so yeah, that'll be fun. But anyways, the post goes on and they say, "It's a monetized outrage machine that's always been a loud minority. We've seen this cycle before and we're seeing it again, but louder and algorithmically supercharged. The current so-called anti-woke movement in gaming is the end result of a decade-long grift." The decade-long grift. Oh my gosh, they would say something like that. "Built on outrage, clicks, and punching down." Yeah, guys, punching down. Hey, when you're criticizing AAA corporations like Ubisoft, that oftentimes even have like government funding backing them, but regardless, you're criticizing massive corporations. Did you know that that's a very shameful thing to do? Shame on you. You're punching down on those corpos. Individuals who criticize these corporations are punching down. That makes a lot of sense, bro. Okay, bootlick harder, will ya? Continuing, they say, "Let's be real. It's Gamergate with a new coat of paint and a monetization strategy. Let's break it down. 2014 to 2015, Gamergate. It all began under the guise of ethics in game journalism, but it quickly devolved into coordinated harassment targeting women and marginalized creators. What it really was? A culture war flashpoint for people angry that gaming wasn't just for them anymore." So I wasn't following the sort of gaming news back during Gamergate. I was not a part of that. I didn't even know what it was until like 2020 or so. But looking back on what Gamergate was, weren't gamers criticizing people like Anita Sarkeesian? And if you look up the definition of grifter, I think one can make a very easy and strong argument that Anita fits that definition pretty dang well. But of course, when the modern audience types throw around the word grifter, which is a word they like to throw around quite often, it generally doesn't actually apply to the people that they try to put that label on. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people with the same line of thinking that these modern audience types have that the word grifter would apply much more accurately on, but they never want to admit that. That takes us to the next section where they say, 2018 to 2019, Battlefield 5 and the women in World War II freak out. People lost their minds over women soldiers in World War II 5. I guess that's an abbreviation for Battlefield 5 or something. I don't know. Historical inaccuracy, they cried, like COD and Battlefield were ever historically accurate to begin with. EA's accept it or don't buy it response enraged this crowd even more and fed into a narrative of being ignored by the industry. 2020, The Last of Us Part 2. This was the final straw for a lot of them. A muscular woman who wasn't designed for the male gaze. A beloved male character killed early. A lesbian couple just existing. Cue review bombs, death threats, and YouTubers squeezing 15 videos out of the same rage bait. And surprise, the game still sold millions. 2024, present, the algorithmic rage economy. Now we're in the age of shorts, TikToks, and rage monetization. If you can scream woke bad, the algorithm will hand you engagement. These creators don't care about games. They care about grifting their way to a paycheck via fake outrage and culture war buzzwords. Let's read that last sentence one more time really quick. They care about grifting their way to a paycheck via fake outrage and culture war buzzwords. Congratulations, you just described outlets like Kotaku and Polygon and all those gaming journalists who have the exact same rhetoric that you do, OP. Isn't that funny? He goes on to say, that's the bar now. Not featuring woke women or minorities in a meaningful way equals based. So yeah, I love how this dude says that a game with a strong female character is not meaningful, and a game based on Chinese culture is not meaningful either, and doesn't consider those games to be inclusive. Like, talk about a self-report, man. Bro probably only considers AAA slop to be inclusive when corpos are very desperately pandering in the most shoehorned way possible. Continuing, they say, but here's the thing. These people don't represent most gamers. Their comment sections are an echo chamber. There's so much irony in this post. It's great. Games with woke stuff still topping charts. yeah. How'd Concord do again? How'd Veilguard do again? How did Dustborn do again? How did SSK the Jail do? Like, we can go down the list, bro, if you want. We can keep going down the list. Let me know how those games are doing, all right? But you know what? Yeah, I guess they kind of are topping charts. If the chart was like biggest failures of all time, like, yeah, topping that one for sure. And then we get the next bullet point. Indie games and AAA titles alike continue being more inclusive. The only reason this movement seems big is because rage gets clicks and engagement equals visibility. But step away from the algorithm for a second and ask yourself, do the people screaming about wokeness actually reflect the friends you game with, your community, your own experiences? No, they're the same few dudes yelling into a mic, gaming the system, and trying to turn resentment into revenue. Okay, look, to be fair, sometimes those anti-woke people, they do like scream into the mic and sound kind of obnoxious. I've seen that happen. It does happen. I'm not going to say it's something that never happens. But this whole post is just really out of touch and bizarre to me. Like, I don't understand what this post is trying to get at. The title was "The Anti-Woke Gaming Crowd Isn't a Movement, It's a Monetized Outrage Machine That's Always Been a Loud Minority." And then they post some like very short, lazy timeline of events. And their ultimate point is what exactly? They're just trying to make the argument that people criticizing like AAA corpos for like fake pandering and things like DI and ESG are like a minority or something. I don't know. Is this post just made to try and make the modern audience feel better about themselves? Is that like what this was all about? Because that's so weird, man. Like, what was the point of this whole thing? So almost an hour ago, this comment was made that's got negative 15 downvotes. These modern audience types really don't like this comment. Let's see what the comment says. I don't really see any news articles about woke stuff killing games, but I see a whole lot of posts and news articles talking about the massive amount of anti-woke people ruining games. So if your claim that rage gets clicks, it would be the pro-woke crowd that is engaging in this behavior for clicks. And we get a response that says, isn't XQC, who is a literal Russian shill, is one of the biggest streamers ever? Isn't Asmongold Golf? You did not just say that. That's so lame, bro. I'm in disbelief this person unironically just said that. Asmongold Golf? Seriously? That's your that's what they're trying to call Asmongold nowadays? Bro. I feel like you got to be like a weird, gross individual to even like think of that and come up with it and like unironically type that out and like post it here. What the frick, man? Like, okay, moving on. Isn't YouTube is full of Hero K? I get a shout out too. Look at that. Hero K. Or whatever his name is. It's Asmongold and Hero A. It's not that complicated, dude. Like, I know you're trying to do a bit here, but you're just making yourself sound like a very weird person, you know? Hero K, Asmongold Golf. Oh my gosh, wow. Aren't half of the biggest VTubers literal Nazis? Yeah, you know this person has an account on Blue Sky. At least one of whom inspired a school shooting in America by some right-wing extremist not too long ago. Yeah, they're really reaching. They're reaching for that same thing that like other people are bringing up about Pippa and all that. Like, oh yeah, let's go after her now too. Yep. At least one of whom. Oh yeah, we read that part. Most of their content is all about woke is killing the games. Our society. Bro, what's wrong with this person, man? This person is so freaking like creepy. Who says stuff like this? Is being destroyed by the trans gay Muslim Jews. So yes, rage gets clicks and money. Having news articles call that out does not prove your point. Dude, you sound more mad than anyone I've heard in a long time. Like, who freaking types like this? Gross, creepy individual in my opinion. The icing on the cake to me is like, I don't even use the word woke. Those of you who watch my videos can attest to that. I don't even use that word. I've said that word more in this video than I probably ever have in my life, simply because I'm like reading what this person says. In other words, this person is really from my perspective, propagating the word woke more than I am, certainly, or more than a lot of people are. Which I just find funny because they're all mad at people who use that word, but they're actually using it more than most people probably are. It's similar to what I said about that post on Blue Sky accusing a bunch of VTubers of being Nazis. And these people were literally using Nazi like 3 to 4 times per post that they were making, ultimately in the entire thread, like dozens of times. And it's like, yo, these people allegedly hate Nazis, but they're accusing everyone who are not actually Nazis of being Nazis and like using that word all over the place. In doing so, they're propagating it probably more than most, if not everyone else. Like actual neo-Nazis would probably be proud of how often Blue Sky users propagate that terminology. So they get a response. I don't know if I want to keep reading all this. You know, it's long-winded Reddit brain rot stuff. Obviously, the person who's probably like the most reasonable here is getting downvoted by the others. Oh yeah, actually, you know what? I'll read some of this because he actually addresses that. He says, "Edit, I keep getting downvoted, but no one seems willing to say anything about this comment." So above that, he said, okay, so if that's true, then doesn't that put into question the comment about these voices being the minority? No response. Op claimed the anti-woke crowd is just a loud minority of the same few dudes who don't represent most gamers, but this response lists some of the biggest content creators on the planet, XQC, one of the most watched streamers globally, Asmongold, massive Twitch presence, major YouTubers, and half of the biggest VTubers. You can't simultaneously argue that these voices are an irrelevant minority that don't matter, and they also control the largest platforms and have the most influence. I know I said I wasn't going to read all this. I changed my mind. The edit, you got me with the edit, man. And he's making like some pretty reasonable points too. And they're not getting a response. He's just getting downvoted, which also makes me want to read this too. It's just funny. Like there's like some layers of comedy here. So continuing, he says, if these creators have audiences in the millions and are the biggest streamers ever, then by definition, they're not a powerless minority. Oh, this is that thing about Schrodinger's Chud. It reminds me of that. Yeah. Similar concept here, I think. Either they have significant reach and influence, which makes them worth taking seriously, or they're truly marginal voices, which means they shouldn't be able to impact game sales. The original post wanted to dismiss these voices as unimportant, while also writing a lengthy analysis about their supposed influence. This response does the exact same thing, listing the massive platforms these creators have, while trying to argue that they're somehow not representative. You can't have it both ways. Either they're influential enough to matter, or they're not. The fact that we're even having this discussion suggests it's the former. And that gives him -5 downvotes. So yeah, the modern audience is upset and miserable, as usual. Let me know what you think about this stuff. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.